So today we are going to continue our conversation about plot and fiction stories.
Use them.
And the story that we are
don't
going to be
you?
reading
She
together
asked
today is
me
called
closer to the
Chip
boy.
and the Great Triple Creek Dam Affair. Now, before we get started, I want you to look and notice that the author is Patricia
I knew it.
Polanco.
I
Has
knew
any
there'd
of-
be
have any of you
consequences.
ever heard of her before, or
This
read about the
by her. And for the first
What do
time
you
in
know
50
about her
years,
as a
let me
writer?
push her short. Child,
She ordered
before
she ordered.
how come you're getting up,
Yes, she
Chip?
did. And
Eli
she's an
asked.
author
Because
and
I suspect there's a
illustrator
wrong that
and
needs to be put
and
right,
she
she
was
said.
in that area.
And I've got to see what's happening for myself.
An orange for
Right
friend.
now, I want the two of you to
You
have
got
a conversation
that?
about some problems that you see arising in the story and put them in the rising.
And what does she write about?
Herself.
Does she? A lot of times herself, even though they're still fictional stories.
So when you hear the name of the story and you look at the picture, what are some
Eli
predictions
doesn't
you
read
about
books,
what
and her
the, the story might be
and
about?
wanted to get out of bed. Might be going to teach him how to read.
Because of the title. And so we know there's an aunt, so there's a family relationship.
That could be her nephew
Mm-hmm.
or her daughter. Oh, never mind.
Why do you say never mind?
Because it's Aunt Chip.
Right, so it's an aunt. I mean, be respectful of the teacher.
And so while I'm reading, what I want you to think about is the plot of the story. And when we talk about plot, we talk about it as a roller coaster because as the problem or the conflict
Eli and Aunt Chip
involves
walked into the center of town. Eli was right.
comes to
Comes for being
surface
well
that
and
will help to solve the
to
conflict.
hold up ropes, to sit
And
on,
where
to
the
dock,
story
to sleep
creates the
under,
most
to
tension
mend fences,
is right
to stuff
before we
potholes,
find
to
the
prop
answer
up
to the
sagging
question.
buildings,
That's
and
called the
even to
climax.
shore up the dam.
So when you
Where's
look at
everyone
this
gone?
page that you
Aunt
have your
Chip
plot
asked in
diagram
stunned
sheet,
amazement.
you'll notice that it does
There aren't any children
look a
playing.
little bit
I don't
like
hear talking or
a
laughing.
roller coaster up and down.
Everyone's watching. Eli
And
answered with
what we
authority.
need to keep
It's
track
almost
of
time
is
for a
some
cliffhanging
information
episode of
about
How the Dawn
characters, the
Turns.
background
There
information.
have
So
been
at the beginning of the
consequences
story,
indeed, Aunt
What is
Chip
the part
said.
of, what is that
Then,
part of
as they
the
reached
story
the corner
called?
of Cedar and Oak,
Exposition, exactly, right? So it's setting the characters in the basic situation.
She choked
And then
with
after the
tears.
exposition,
Take me home,
as
boy.
the problem
I've
as
seen
it rises
enough.
up, what's that called?
So I noticed
know
another
the rising
problem
action,
on this
but
page that was introduced.
After
Tomorrow,
the
what's the problem that's
before
been
the rising
introduced?
action, isn't there something called the inciting incident?
Right, or the conflict.
well, she wants to go
So-
home, but what's wrong with the
The
town?
conflict is part of the rising action, and so we'll be looking
For
for
what?
that, which is
Not
the basic,
reading.
the biggest problem in the story.
Right.
And then
So
we
when you
have the
look at the
climax.
picture,
And
what else do you
after
notice
the
about the
climax, and we know the answer to the conflict, what is that called?
There's no kids.
And then at the
running
end we
around
have
all
the
resolution.
Good.
Okay, so along the way, while I'm reading to you,
So write down your next
stop
problem.
thinking and talking about this with one another, and then I'm going to let you go ahead and try to take the book apart and put all of the information into this plot structure page yourselves, and then we'll discuss it after. So,
I have to leave early.
here's the first one.
That afternoon, they sat together. And
Absolutely
no fires,
everyone in
sipping
Triple
beer
Creek
around
was around
TV
TV.
sets. No
Do
one
you
could remember
remember a
what
time
glory
when
used to
there
be on
wasn't
that
TV
corner of
every
Cedar and
home?
Oak.
Nor could they remember
What, Aunt Chip? Eli climbed up next to her. That's where the library used to be, she said. What's a library? Eli asked. It's a place where books used to be kept, a long time ago, she answered wistfully. Why did they keep books in a building? Eli asked. They kept them there for folks to borrow and take home to read. Look, child. And she went to a cabinet covered with cobwebs, took out a book, and opened it for him. Dust fluttered out of its pages. Now look at this. Those are words. They tell about ideas, dreams, and feelings. They take you to places far from here. They show you how to be fair and just, and sometimes show you what happens when you're not. Books are a treasure. All you need is the key. The key? Eli asked. The key! Knowing these words and their meaning, she answered softly. It's called reading. But Aunt Chip, if the library had all those treasures, why would anyone take it away? Right now, I want you to think about, predict, what do you think Eli is going to want to do now that he is hearing Aunt Chip's point of view about books? Talk about it.
He might want to start reading, or he might want to build a library and put more books in it for the town to use.
I think he's gonna try to figure out why.
Yeah, I think he'll want to figure out more about books and want to build a library, and so other people can learn how to read, and maybe he'll like reading too.
Yeah, I think that Eli is gonna want to know why they they got rid of the library.
Why they got rid of the library? Alright, so let's keep reading. Well, sir, she started, folks got so taken up by those TVs that they came to the library less and less. Pretty soon folks started to forget what it was there for, all except the librarian. She was there all right every single day. Folks started calling her mad for sitting in that empty old building day after day. Finally, they carried her away, crazy as a March hare, everyone said. She was trying to stop the wrecking ball, but it still crashed into the walls and flattened the place. Then that giant TV tower came. Eli looked again and opened the book they both held in their hands. I want to read, Aunt Chip. Can you teach me? Of course, child, she said, and she hugged him.
That's a great story. Happy Sweetest Day, by the way.
Thank you.
Did you know Sweetest Day?
No, but you're being recorded right now.
Happy Sweetest Day.
You too. All right, so when you look at this, what do you notice about what happened when they built that tower?
Everyone wanted to like watch TV, so they were all excited, and like some people were like mad.
Who was mad?
I think that might be Aunt Chip.
Okay, good. Let's see.
She's a librarian.
You think so? Is that a prediction that you're making?
Oh yeah, I think I think
They
I
said
agree
they were
with Mara.
pulling her away, so she is a librarian.
Okay, let's see. Now, Eli took to reading like a beaver takes to gnawing good wood, or a flea takes to a dirty little yellow dog. Within weeks, he could read just about everything, and he did. He read labels on cereal boxes, covers on canned goods at the store, road signs, all those things folks had memorized by their shapes. It wasn't long before his little classmates at school, where TV sets had long since replaced teachers, noticed that he knew what things said on labels, covers, and such. Look, Eli can hear things we can't, Celeste Appleby said one day. Eli was reading a peanut butter cookie recipe from one of Aunt Chip's cookbooks. How come we can't hear what you're hearing when we look at this book? Hollis Lonsbury asked. I'm not hearing it, Eli said. I'm a-reading it. It's kind of like I can see it talking. Read more, the other children clamored, and each one grabbed a book from nearby pothole and held it up in front of Eli. Eli read about a princess in a kingdom, he read about isosceles triangles, and he read about the sinking of the Titanic. At last, one boy announced, We want to read too, Eli, and they all cheered. Yes! That's when Eli took the children to Aunt Chip. Okay, so now, what can you predict may happen now that all the children are doing what are asking Eli to read?
The kids are gonna want to read.
And what will that do to the town?
The library will come back and the TVs will reduce. The people will watch TV less.
Okay, so what is the big problem in this town? What would you say the major conflict in this story is so far? What do you think?
No one likes to read. They all just want to watch TV.
Is it bigger than that, or is that it? Let's look back at that picture that we saw. What do we notice the difference between this picture and this picture? What's the difference?
Kids were out, and now there's no kids out because they're all inside watching TV.
So what's the problem? What's the major problem?
There's-
What has technology done?
It's
Technology has deteriorated people's minds.
Okay, so that's the major conflict, not the climax. Don't put it in the climax box. Put it like off to the side near the rising action, near the smaller problems. That technology has, what did you say, Mara? That was good.
This deteriorated the minds. But is this the inciting incident?
Which is the same as, yes. So the technology has deteriorated their minds. Now, the climax is the point of the story where you have the most tension right before where you know the answer to that. So technology has deteriorated kids' minds, and then we always want to make it a question. Will they ever get that back, right? Will the kids ever get that back? Let's see. Or the town?
would it be the climax?
The climax, we don't know the climax yet. The climax, remember, is the answer to the conflict. Okay? Not the answer, right before we know the answer. All right, she said when they asked, but I don't have enough books. We need more. That's when the children started borrowing books from all over town. They took them out of potholes, off fences, from the tops of roofs, out from under sagging buildings. They borrowed and borrowed. They got them from everywhere they could find them. Pretty soon Aunt Chip's house echoed with small voices reading from Aesop's fables and Grimm's fairy tales and stories by Hans Christian Andersen and Charles Dickens. Now those children couldn't get enough. One day, Eli and his friends were passing under a very tall wall made almost entirely of books on the edge of town. The original wall had crumbled and the townsfolk had rebuilt it. Eli was reading the spines of each book in the wall when his eyes caught the gold lettering of a lovely green one. Help me up so I can reach it! He could hardly wait to touch it. The children stood on each other's shoulders until Eli's fingers could finally read the book. It's Moby Dick, he exclaimed as he pried it loose. Moby Dick slashed out of the wall with a watery, wet flunk. Got it, he said. That was when they all heard a low rumbling sound that grew louder and louder. They looked up and noticed a trickle of water coming out from where Moby Dick had been. What's happening?
It was holding it was covering water.
And so him taking that Moby Dick book, which is kind of interesting that it's about a whale, out has started what?
A big conflict.
A flood, right? Mm-hmm. The trickle got bigger and bigger, the rumbling got louder and louder, the ground under their feet started to shake, and they noticed that they were ankle deep in water. Let's get to the bluff, Eli called out. When they reached the bluff and looked down, they saw it. The wall of books had become the new Triple Creek Dam, and it was bowing under the weight of the lake behind it. Then with a thundering, watery roar, it exploded. The explosion sent the books flying straight up. They hurtled so high into the air that they disappeared clean out of sight. Tons of water surged down past Dead Man's Bluff and past the Bucket of Suds Saloon and was heading straight for the TV tower next to the bridge at Cedar and Oak Streets. The wall of water hit the tower with such force that it crumpled up like tinfoil. What's the new problem now?
They just broke the TV thing.
They broke the TV thing, and what's happening to their town?
They're flooding.
Okay, so we have some more problems that go along with technology deteriorating the kids' minds. No, it's not the climax yet. We're still building. So in a roller coaster, you know how the tension gets higher and higher? We're still building that tension. We don't know what's going to happen yet. And now what I'm going to do is finish reading the book completely without stopping. And what you two are going to do after is use the book as well as conversation to try and figure out what the climax of the story is, as well as the falling action, and then the resolution, how the characters feel at the end and what in the end happens. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not going to stop now. When the children got into town, they saw all the grown-ups walking around looking confused and dazed. My tent went off for no reason at all, a woman said as my TV went off. For no reason at all, a woman said as she grasped the photo of her TV to her chest. I can't live without my sports recap of the replay of Sunday's game, a hysterical man screamed as he collapsed with a serious case of the vapors. Who could have done such a thing to our town? The mayor called out in anguish, clutching his remote control. It's all my